What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Thee CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story, and everyone's story matters. What's your story? As always, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. I am excited to reintroduce my guest. She was on recently, Janelle Pauls. Welcome, Janelle.
Hi.
Thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely.
So soon.
I know.
Like
it is so soon.
I feel like this is an encore. Like, I just got done with the concert and y'all want me back again?
Encore. Yeah, absolutely. We had an opening, and who better to bring in than Janelle?
Well, thanks.
Absolutely. And you've been helping me in the backside of things.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of helping me sort through some thoughts and start to build the foundation of CrazyFaceUno and where we're going. And
yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. It's really fun.
I feel like it feels kind of like our conversation since the last recording hasn't stopped, which is great.
Almost. Yeah, it's almost perfect as to how I would describe it as well. Yeah, for sure. We got off the phone and probably chatted for another 30 minutes or so after we got off our podcast, and then shot back and forth. I loved how we did voice recordings back and forth, which I really enjoy, actually.
Yeah, they were great.
My wife had been we'd been talking back and forth. I'm like, I just need to externally process things sometimes. And she was like, well, have you tried voice memos? Or I was like, yeah, but it's not the same when you're not it just feels, it's hard to just pull random crap out of your head into a voice recording, you know?
When you're not talking to a person.
Yeah. But we did it back and forth together. And then it went from 5 minutes to 9 minutes. To 18 minutes. I just doubled every time I sent you one.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It is really great. It's good to have. I love the support. I love having that. So
yeah,
an
honor.
We were chatting before we got going. We about several different things, but the Enneagram, our numbers. I'm reading. What's the book called? Our way.
The Road Back to You.
The Road Back to You. Yeah, I started this weekend, and I did a 4-hour chunk. I listened to it on audio, and so.
Yeah, once you get into it, you never stop.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, what's next? And then we were talking. I think I found my number, and. Now I'm eager to see. I'm eager to see if it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you really say that though when you haven't read the entire book yet?
That's right. I know. And we've gone back and forth about this too, because there's a good chance that there's another number that I am. So I'm gonna withhold my revealing of the number.
Yeah. Keep them wanting.
We don't have a direction for this podcast.
We don't.
Full disclosure to everyone listening right now. So, not that I normally have a direction, but I generally, when you haven't talked to somebody in a while, you kind of have this linear direction of oh yeah, tell me about your life, blah, blah, blah. And I don't have that right now.
Okay.
I didn't even take any notes. I literally have a blank page. Well, I have a page that has my intro because I redid the intro, with the everyone has a story. What's your story? But
well, to paint you a picture, I'm sitting in my apartment facing the river. You might hear in the background the sweet dulcet tones of the Notre Dame rowing team.
Ooh.
Oh, it's the women's time. The women's rowing team.
Nice.
Going by my house.
Nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
They're
really
pretty
cool.
good too, aren't they?
They're very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can practice short stints on their lake, but it's not good for much because it's very small.
Yeah.
And so they practice on the river. They have a boathouse that is about a mile and a half down the river
Really?
from my house.
Nice.
And so all year long, except for the coldest months, they are practicing just, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
So you can always hear the megaphone coach, or the
Right.
coach on the megaphone coming first. And then you're like, oh, they're coming.
Here
Who's
they
it going to
come.
be?
Yep. That's
So,
cool. That's fun to kind
they're
of
out
watch.
practicing. So if you hear some rhythmic rowing noises, that's what that's about.
Perfect. I actually, in pure South Florida fashion, I poured myself a little Haitian rum.
Hey.
I was like, it's evening when we're recording.
Yeah, I almost said it's Friday. It's so not Friday.
It's not Friday. Now. It feels weird. I was telling you, Janelle, like we my wife and I had 2 free nights at this hotel in Miami, down in South Florida, or in like South Beach, Miami, this weekend. And so it's like Monday, you roll back in Monday, you're like coming back from quote vacation, it's like that hard to get back into the rhythm of things.
Yeah.
I guess the rum is
it was just calling to you.
Yeah, it's just like, why not have a drink on a Monday evening?
Is rum your like go-to drink of choice?
No. I have. Well, this rum is like all I had. I actually have a bunch of whiskey. I started getting into whiskey as recent in the last year or so. So I enjoyed that. I mean, I'm a big fan of beer. Craft beers are good, and I don't know. Cocktails. I've really gotten into mojitos and some of those different cocktails. I don't know. I'm all over the board. I'm all over the place.
Can I ask what whiskeys are on your shelf right now?
Yes, I have several. The Four Roses.
Yes.
I have that. I have
the staple.
Yes, it's really good. I'm almost out. It's got like less than a pour. So, I did. Oh, this is fun. I'll get to all the ones I have, or some of the ones I have for sure. I saw this thing where it was like at the end of your bottle, you pour basically like the last shot or like the last ounce. You pour into like a decanter, and you collect all of the ones that you have over time, and like the flavor profiles kind of change into this one. You have this one. So I've been doing that recently with all my whiskey. So I haven't tasted it.
All the last pours of each of your bottles are like collected, mixed up in this decanter.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
You get to the bottom. Old Forester, that's my favorite one, to be completely honest. I'm almost out of that one as well, so I've been saving it. It's actually a store, like a store buy, so they bought their own barrel.
Oh, perfect.
And
those are good.
Yeah, it's delicious. But I'm a big fan of Old Forester. I think that's probably one of my favorite ones. I like the sweeter ones, like Angel's Envy. The bourbon is my favorite for sure. Like that's top of my list.
Yeah.
I have. Let's see. What else do I have? What's the one that starts with an M? I never can say the name. Muchik.
Which one?
Man.
That's okay. I believe you. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah. I've got my computer here. I'm gonna try type in. See if I can figure it out. I've got so many like whiskey glasses too that I really enjoy. I like see them and I'm like, oh, I want to get those. Like, but I have this like little shelf, this little dealio that I like to use.
Yeah.
And I've got enough, so I've stopped buying them, unfortunately, because I really like to buy them. They're just fun to buy. Let's see. Shoot. I have Elijah Craig. There,
Yeah.
I have some of that. I have this other one that's kind of a specialty one too, and I don't know the name. It's like a high proof, super sweet, really hot, which isn't necessarily my jam, but it's great over ice in my opinion. Flavors really come out.
Uh-huh.
It's really helpful because I didn't tell you the name, but
the High West.
I do have High West. No, but I have the Prairie. What's the one with like the jackalope on it?
Yeah.
So I have that one.
That's a good collection.
Yeah. So kind of just mix in between the bunch of them, but I've decided there's a bunch that I want to try or like buy, and I decided that it was important for me to empty a bottle or two before I start buying more because they're just not very cheap.
Right. Can I make some recommendations?
Yes, please. I got my notebook right here and my pen is ready.
All right. Woodford Reserve, they're double oaked, especially since you said you like sweet. That one is just like pure vanilla at the finish. It's so lovely and it's so smooth.
Okay.
Eagle Rare is another great one.
I've had that Eagle Rare, but I don't own it.
Okay. It's one that's, if you're buying a bottle, it's slightly harder to find, but you should be able to find it if you call around. And then one that I tried this week, it's a good value, meaning it's like lower on the price range, but high on the quality. It's 100 proof, which is a little bit higher, but it does not give that like punch in the face that 100 proofs typically do. It's called Early Times.
Early Times.
Yeah. Tyler, Grant, and I got that for our camping trip coming up this weekend.
Oh, nice. Where are you guys going?
We're going to, there's 2 state parks in Illinois that are like right on top of each other. Starved Rock State Park.
I grew up with that one. So.
And Matheson.
Nice.
Yeah, we went there 2 years ago, and for the same like fall camping trip. We do this camping trip every year, and we went there 2 years ago, and we were just like, we did not have enough time to explore as much as we wanted to. So we're going back.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like camping, especially if you're like doing any hiking like that, it's definitely one of those experiences that, because it takes time to like get in, set up, and then by the time you do all that, then you're like, oh, I've got a day to hike around, if you're just doing like a weekend little deal. So like sometimes places just take a little extra time. You need a second trip.
Absolutely. Yeah, we spent a whole day in Matheson, and then some of us, so on the day that we left 2 years ago, it was raining, and so half of our group were like, nah, I'm not hiking in the rain, and then half of our group was like, yeah, I'm totally hiking in the rain. And so I got to see Starved Rock a little bit, but like the Grants and a couple others in our group didn't. So we're going back, and we'll probably do Starved Rock on Saturday and Matheson on Friday, maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Fun. That'll be fun. Yeah, for sure. Starved Rock's cool.
Yeah,
it's a cool
really
little state park. Yeah, I grew up in that, going there. I went there several times when I was younger. My mom, my dad, and grew up in Illinois. Did you know that?
I think I did not. I think I was under the assumption that you grew up in Granger.
Yeah, I was born in Indiana. I lived in Indiana until I was 2 years old. And then my family, we moved to Illinois. We moved to Buda, Illinois, which is over Quad Cities, Peoria area.
Gotcha.
And then I lived there till like halfway through my first grade year. So whatever age that is.
That's 7.
7. There you go. And then we moved to Charleston, Illinois, which is where Eastern Illinois University is.
Mm-hmm.
It's where, oh, geez. Well, never mind.
It's gone.
Football player. I can't think of his name.
Sure.
Shocker.
Oh,
Names.
There will be absolutely no help from me.
Yeah.
In that area.
Anyway, Charleston, it's like Mattoon, Effingham. It's like southern, southeast, I believe.
Yeah.
Southwest, southeast, southern Illinois. I lived there till the end of my 6th grade year. So I was about 12. And then I moved back to Indiana, in Sullivan, Indiana. Went to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then moved up to, I went to college, basically.
Yeah.
So, South Bend, that area. And been moving around ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. I relate to that childhood of, like, moving many times, for sure.
Where all did you move? Where were you born?
So I was born in California.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. In an armpit of a city called Fresno. And anyone who's familiar with California can tell you that, any city in the Central Valley of California, there's just not a lot going on there. There's some, it's like, so the city itself is probably as big as South Bend. Mm-hmm. There's just not really, there is a downtown area, but you wouldn't know that it's downtown. Like if you were dropped in the middle of downtown Fresno, you would not know that you were in a downtown area. So
is it like, I mean, on a smaller scale, it'd be like being dropped into South Bend or Wishwaukee?
Not even that. Like,
really?
Even downtown. So downtown South Bend definitely feels like a downtown, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sure.
Mishawaka, sort of.
Yeah, it's just so small.
It's just so small, yeah. So it would be like, the strip on Main Street and Grape Road where it's like strip malls and grocery stores?
Yeah.
It would be like being dropped there.
Okay.
So that's like...
It's kind of like where I live now, to be honest.
Sure. I don't know, but yes.
South Florida.
So yeah, and then like the country around Fresno is like olive fields, garlic fields, and almond groves.
Okay. Olives.
Yeah. Yeah, olives, olive trees, garlic fields, and almond groves. And then around that, there's the like Sierra Nevadas. And so there's like, so when you're in Fresno, you're about an hour and a half from either Kings Canyon National Park, Sequoia National Park, or Yosemite National Park. So there are benefits. You're close by like mountains and stuff, and that's great. But Fresno itself is just like, everyone's hot, everyone's dried out. There's nothing much to offer except tri-tip. Have you ever had tri-tip?
Yes.
Oh, so you know.
Yes, it's good.
It's so good.
It's delicious.
So there's tri-tip there. End of list.
End of list. Cut.
Yeah. So that's where I was born. We lived there until I was 7. Then we moved to Middlebury, which is... Have you ever been to Middlebury?
I don't think I have. Maybe.
Okay. It's about 45 minutes east of here, of South Bend.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been through it, but I don't... Like, I feel like I played soccer at, like, a tournament when I was younger in Middlebury. That's, like, what reminds me of Middlebury for whatever reason. There's, like, soccer. I don't know if that's just me making things up. Could be, but... That's
Who knows?
something that sticks out to me.
Yeah. So yeah, my family grew up in the Central Valley of California, where in the wintertime it's like 60 degrees. And then on January 5th, 1996, we moved to Middlebury. Again, January 5th to northern Indiana from the Central Valley of Cafalifornia.
Well done. Well done. Congratulations. And, you've won a prize.
Yes. We moved into this drafty 3-story house that was converted from Amish to conventional house. So
beautiful, but
like plumbing just kind of thrown
into.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful, like handmade, hand-built house that, was typically run on wood stoves or heated by wood stoves. And, no like running water, no like electricity, no
Perfect.
Plumbing, like,
Perfect.
the like. So yeah, we jumped into that. And it, to be clear, we did have a toilet and a bathtub. It was fine.
Yes.
So yeah, we were good.
Nice.
And then, so I grew up the rest of the way in Middlebury, went to Northridge High School, graduated early because I was ready to get the hell out of there. And
that's the nice thing about some of the bigger high schools too. Northridge.
Yeah.
See, I know where Northridge is though.
You do?
Yeah. Pass through there, like going to Indy a lot,
Okay. So Northridge, my graduating class was about 250.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of something different.
Maybe you're thinking of Northwood. Northwood is pretty big.
Why do I know Northridge though?
I don't know. Northwood is in Napanee though. It's bigger. No. It's bigger than Northridge, but not by a ton. Penn is the big one in Mishawaka.
Yeah, Penn's huge. Penn's got to be one of the biggest high schools in the state for sure.
I would say that's probably true.
If not the biggest.
I don't know. I don't know stats on that kind of shit.
I don't either.
So then, went to college. After college, so when I graduated high school, between graduating high school and starting college, my family moved to Portland, Oregon. And then, so I stayed around here, went to college. And then after I finished college, after I graduated college, more accurately, I moved out to Portland to join them there. And then I lived there for about 3 years, moved to Indianapolis. We covered this on the last podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Lived in Indy for 3 years, and then I've been here for 3.5 years. Coming up on 4 years.
Look at you.
I know.
That's cool.
That's yeah,
moved bumped around. Did you find it so like how there's like a comfort in meeting new people, but also it feels exhausting? Do you relate to that at all?
There's a comfort in meeting new people.
Well, like
it's exhausting.
Like I feel like because I moved around a bunch, like you're like, okay, yeah, like meeting new people, the extrovertedness that comes out, that's myself. But it also feels like overwhelming and exhausting sometimes. Like moving to South Florida, for instance, I'm like this isn't my first rodeo. Like I know how this goes, but I'm like
trying to build a community.
Okay, well, talk to me in 2 years because it's going to take a while, and I might have a couple people that I really like,
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I would not say that meeting new people on my own is a strength of mine. I definitely would not say that. I absolutely lean more towards the introverted type.
Okay.
And I find it terrifying to like go up to someone that I've never met before and be like, "Hi, I'm Janelle. Tell me about your life. Like, who are you?"
Yeah. See, I do too.
So
it's like I need people to come to me.
Yeah, I'm okay if someone comes to me, but I tend to be skeptical if someone does that too. So I'm like, I don't know. But if there's like
It's your
I
one
find it
coming
a
out.
lot. I find it a lot, yeah, for sure. I find it a lot easier if there's like a point of connection, where like if I know someone that knows you, or if I've seen you before somewhere else.
Okay.
And if I have like an in somehow, and I have a safety net of like, okay, I can talk to them about this, then I feel a lot more comfortable. And I enjoy meeting people, and I enjoy getting to know people that I've never met before after that part is done. Like if I can get past the initial introduction, how are we connected? What do we have in common? If I can get past that, I'm great. Or if I have like a trusted friend with me that can like be a buffer.
Yeah.
If I have that, then I'm great. But doing it on my own is terrifying for some reason.
Yeah, like I can resonate with that for sure. But at the same time, like so if I was to have like a cookout and there would be strangers that like came, for instance, like that's my element, right? Where like you came into my world.
Yes.
Versus
you have like a home base.
Yeah. So like Dana and I went to a couple like networking events in this area, like in our area, like the first month that we moved here, and like walking in there, it was like I looked at Dana and I was like, I hate everything about this right now.
Yeah.
Like I just want to sit there. Like I want people to come to me. Like I don't like inserting myself. I want people to like come to me.
I absolutely feel that.
Yeah. So like I do well at like events if you had a booth, right? Where people come to you to the booth.
Yes.
Like I love that. Because it's like you obviously have came by or you've walked by, or it's like establishing, or there's like an established thing that's going on, and like have a conversation. We might not talk about anything that has to do with the booth, Like when I worked for Invisible Children, we had a booth. We'd set up, our thing after our presentation, and we'd sell our merchandise and whatever. And I love that. Like that's my sweet spot. Just having that conversation. One-on-ones are great. Hence the podcast. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like walking into a group of strangers, or like, I just don't like. I don't know where to begin. I'm like not, and I don't think that most people would describe me as like a wallflower, but like that's where I find myself in those types of things where I like don't know anybody. I'm like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. Like,
right. I would take that one step further and say, even if I like, the difference would be if I am like in a professional mode and I'm representing a company or an agency or something, like if I am the face of something, if I'm doing it for work, I have so much more confidence in it, because it's like, it's not about me. It's about whatever I'm representing. So I don't have to worry about myself. I just have to worry about doing a good job. I can ruffle, I can like fluff up my feathers and present myself so confidently. But behind then if it's just about, behind a mask, if it's just about myself, I am scared shitless.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Isn't that weird? Aren't we interesting people?
So
like
weird.
Just people in general. We were talking about the Enneagram stuff, and I love like sociology and just like society in general, of like why we do the things that we do. And I love like theorizing and like talking about it and thinking about it, and like, that's really interesting. Like I've noticed, and it comes, I mean, I do this even with the podcast when I send out invites. There's like every once in a while there's this outlier of someone. I'm like, man, that's a really interesting response to my invite, like when you have 95% of everyone else that says a similar thing. And then you have that one person that says something like different, and you're like, it's not about the 95, it's about the 5. And I'm like, dang it. Like you got in my head, man. Like, what'd you do that for? Like,
right. Which is, I mean, it's good for you that you were open enough for someone to get in your head.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm always like trying to figure out like, I wonder what that's about. Like, is it more reluctance on because of my like this thing, or is it themselves? You know, like,
Sure.
What is it? Like, oh, interesting. Like, interesting response. I just like those types of things are always like draw my attention. I'm like, why did the outlier decide to do that, or why did whatever? Yeah, I don't know. People are just really fascinating and interesting. Or like we were in Miami, we were walking down. I think it's called Oceanside. It's like where all the clubs and stuff are. Which we quickly realized that like all those people, we wanted to be on the other side of the street and like looking and watching those people. Like being in it was like, like this is too much.
Too overwhelming.
Yeah. It was like, okay, cool. We've been here now. You don't have to do that again. And, but the people that stop in the middle of the sidewalk and like discuss what they're doing in a crowded, busy like place, you're just like, what? Like, how, what? At what point in time, like you could just pull off to the side right over there. Like, why didn't you just do that? Like, that would have been fine. Like, now you're holding up traffic both ways and people are trying to get around you and like, don't know how. It's like fascinating. Or here's one that I've noticed that if you recognize, if you're the one that's like paying attention when you're walking down like in a group of people, it's like your responsibility to get out of the way of the other people. But if you don't, it's like playing chicken with somebody almost.
Yeah. No,
like
absolutely.
If you don't pay attention, if you just like put your head down and look and just start walking forward, somebody's going to look up first. Otherwise you just run into each other.
Right.
And generally...
That's when life turns into a romantic comedy though, Shane.
Yes. Yes, it does. Oh.
That's the meet cute.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh, hello.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fascinating. I just have this theory of like, if you just pretend like you can't see the other person, they're going to look up. They'll move out of your way. Otherwise, it's your responsibility. My favorite thing is to just stop when people aren't paying attention. I just stop and I like stare at them. And then they like stop when they get like 2 inches from you and they like look up.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? You know, you just like smile and like look at them like, interesting.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry to bring this back to the Enneagram, but you just said like 4 things that are typical of like 4 different numbers.
I know, see?
So I'm like, who are you?
I don't know.
What is it?
I don't know.
You'll figure it out.
I don't know. Janelle, I don't know. But I can tell you, as soon as we get done with this podcast, I'm going right back to that book.
Yes.
I've got some listening to do. I got some...
Yes.
I've been multitasking in my brain a bit and thinking like, what am I going to fix for dinner tonight? This is when I do a lot of my like listening to my audiobooks. Yeah. Like I just finished Malcolm Gladwell's How to Talk with Strangers. Okay. Which I finished that thing in like 2 days. It's fascinating. I would highly encourage anybody listening to give it a listen or give it a read. It's really interesting. It's also less to do with the title than you would think it would be. It's more the like, I don't know. I thought it would be more on I don't know, in line with the title, I guess. Like Talking with Strangers, but it's just like I guess it's kind of on point with some of his other books, you know, how he writes, but it's like how we are as humans and like how we operate and how we go about life and how we kind of like contradict who we truly are in some ways, like you know, like one of the things in the book he talks about is how we actually operate, like the average or the norm is to operate and to like take people and to think the best in things and to think the best in people. and how it's really hard for us to discern people that are like trying to deceive us or manipulate us or like lie to us, how it's like a 50-50 shot, like maybe slightly above 50%, like 56% time you can get it accurately to like pick the person that's trying to like deceive you or lie to you. But like our natural response is to actually believe people. And so like that's like how he kind of opens the book up in some ways. It's like through that lens. But it's like that type of thing, how he gives this like example of we all think we're really good at like picking the person out of the lineup that's not telling the truth, or but the statistics say that we're like it's a 50-50 guess. Like good luck. And
right.
I don't know. He goes through a whole bunch of different like socio like different topics, I guess, from like race to politics to just like male female, not even male female, but just like the sexual response. So, like, I don't know. He goes through a whole bunch of different things and gives a bunch of different background and evidence, and at the end of the book it's just really interesting. It was like fascinating because he's like telling these stories, and he's really good at like telling the story, but has less to do with what you would think like how to talk with strangers, of like a quote self-help with like how to talk with strangers, but more like this social view of humanity and how we respond and how we interact with one another.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to think about. Like, I think, and maybe this is just a me experience, and not everyone else experiences this, but I was thinking the other day and talking to the Grants about it, about how like it's there as we've all like grown into adulthood, we've all kind of taken on this task of like trying to figure each other out, and and that's what's great about relationships, is that each party is trying to figure the other one out and how to best support the other person. And but at the same time, it's kind of exhausting. Like,
so exhausting.
It really is. Like, it's so great when you like have an aha moment and you're like, oh, that's why when I do this, you respond with that. And like when you have aha moments, it's so satisfying and fascinating and wonderful to have that experience. And yet I was talking to the Grants, and I said to them, I was like, remember back in the days when like our family was just our family, and like our friends were just our friends, and like we didn't really think about like why they were the way that they are. It was just kind of like, oh well, that's just how she is, or how he is, or whatever. Like, it's just so fascinating as to like how much time we spend as adults trying to figure out another person in order to have a better relationship with them. And again, maybe that's just like a me thing, but I feel like a lot of the people around me are trying to do the same thing.
I don't think it's just you. Maybe it's you and I don't know, because
maybe
that sounds pretty accurate to me.
It's just when you kind of step back from it, it's like, God, how much time have I spent just like trying to put myself in another person's brain, not just shoes, but like brain, like try to figure out why their like natural responses are the way that they are.
Yes. Is that good, bad, or indifferent?
Would never be that way,
Yeah. Do you think it's good, bad, or indifferent?
Good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, like, do you think that's a good thing, a bad thing, or is it just like it's no difference? It's just...
I think overall it's a good thing. I think it can at times be indifferent. Like, it can at times be like, no matter how hard you try to figure this out, you're never going to truly understand it. And so what's the point? And I think sometimes it can be bad in the sense of like, you're spending so much time trying to figure out their motives that you miss the big picture kind of thing. But overall, I think it is a very good thing to invest your time and energy in learning about the people that you're in relationship with, and, you know, continuing to see the best in them, and continuing to learn what their motives are and what their responses are with how they see the world.
Yeah. Do you think it's like
people?
Do you think it's like a mark of maturity?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and
like you were just saying,
I'm
it's
not
like
necessarily claiming that for myself. I'm not saying I'm so mature, Shane. Okay.
Well, I think it's just a sign that you're like are maturing, and maybe you're not. Yeah. You know, like whatever. I think you are, but like regardless of whether, I just think like you made the point of like think about like our college days.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like it's less about you just like going with the flow because there's no. Like you're operating within the boundaries of someone else's set like framework, you know? And then as you get older, you start operating out of your own framework.
Yeah.
And then you start trying to figure out how other people and yourself fit into that framework in which you like operate within, and like how it's supposed to work and how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's almost the, you know, when you ask a lot of those, like, we've all heard or read or something about, like, you asking elderly people, like, what's the most important thing? Like, don't think so much about the future. Like, live in the present a little bit more. And, you know, like, it's kind of that. But it's that middle ground of you're like, oh, we're trying to figure this thing out and trying to verse, like, just living, you know?
Yeah, I had the privilege of spending an evening with my neighbor, who's 92, right before, like a few days before he passed away. And one of the comments he made, and I just want to lay a disclaimer too, like he was in a very like happy and well thinking place. At the time he was not like on.
Is this the story that you were gonna tell me?
You want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, sure. So, well, first I'll tell you this part. So, so I was sitting with him and we were just talking for hours, and one of the things that he mentioned was that he was like watching his diet, or like he only allowed himself one bagel a week because, you know, he was always trying to get rid of that spare tire around his waist kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, like at 92 years old, he's still conscious and worried about his weight. Like, what, there has to be more to life. And that's not, he had a lot more going on in his life, but I'm like, I wanted to tell everyone around me, like, stop worrying so much about your goddamn weight. Like, no one deserves at 92 to still be worrying about it. Like, it just never ends. Like, it never ends.
I know.
Those like insecurities and those things that you want to fix about yourself. Like, it never ends. So stop worrying about it so much.
How do you stop worrying about it though? We can come back to that, but
we
that's the thing. That's the question. That's the $1 million. That's the $1 million question.
Yes.
It's easy to say stop worrying about it, and you can name the thing to stop worrying about.
Yes.
The flip side of that is how.
Right. I don't claim to know the answer at all.
We'll come back to that.
Okay, so here's what happened. So his name, I don't know if he would prefer that I keep his name out of it. So he went by his middle name, so I'm going to call him by his first name, just in case. So his first name was Clifton. We'll call him Cliff. All right? Cliff. So when I moved into this apartment, Cliff had been living here already for like, I think 9 years. And so soon after I moved in, he introduced himself to me. He was warm and always so kind and inviting. And he was as independent as he could be. He got around with a cane, but he still did all of his grocery shopping by himself. He went to the gym. He took himself to his haircuts. I mean, he was truly independent. The only thing that he required help with was getting his tomato plants set up on his porch. So like pouring the soil and carrying,
Yeah.
That was the only thing that he regularly asked for help with because, his back and all the things. So he was 90 when I met him, and, I've been living here now for a year and a half, so I got to know him pretty well. My friends and I went caroling at his door over Christmas time. And so he also had this system because, he's 90 to 92 during this time. He knows that people are like have him on their radar. So he has this system where every single morning, the first thing he does is he opens the drapes in his apartment. And the absolute last thing he does before he goes to bed is he closes them. So as long as that system is not off, no one has to like come knock on his door and check on him or worry. Right. So,
that's
and there's
brilliant.
so there's other like residents in the building who have known him for a lot longer than I have. And so they know this system too. So we all just kind of would keep an eye, check his window, peek inside his window, make sure he was like sitting in his chair or whatever. Sure. And his apartment is on the other side of the wall from mine. So like, because he's 92, he was hard of hearing. So his TV volume would be way up. So I could hear what he was watching from my apartment, which was fine. No complaints. So one day, this was the middle of August. I came home from having dinner at some friend's house, and it was like 11:30, and it was a Wednesday night. I came home. I got myself ready for bed, and I could hear this like muffled pounding, and it was like a steady rhythm and kind of a slower, like as if you were pounding your fist on a table kind of thing. Yeah. And I kind of brushed it off thinking the couple that lived above me were, having a good time. And I was like, well, mazel tov.
Good on them.
Goodbye. And so I just went to bed. Didn't worry about it. At 2 a.m, you know how when you like wake up from a nightmare, you're out of breath and like you can hear your heartbeat in your ears kind of thing.
Yeah.
I woke up like that, but I hadn't had a nightmare at all. So I woke up at like 2 a.m. So now this is like 2 a.m. Thursday, and I could hear that pounding again. And I was like, something is not right. And so I immediately thought, oh my God, it's Cliff, and he's fallen and he can't get up and something's wrong. And so I called the non-emergent police number, and they come out, and I explained to them, like, I think this is what's happening. Can you please check his apartment? And I just point in the direction of his apartment. And they said, yes, of course. We'll go check and we'll let you know if anything comes of it. But if you don't hear back from us, like, assume no news is good news. You can go back inside. It's like, okay. So I go back inside. I see I can, like, from my window, I can see the police car lights happening. Mm-hmm. And I can hear them knocking on doors. But after about 20 minutes, they leave, and I didn't hear from them again, so nothing really happened. While I'm waiting, I can still hear the pounding, but it's not growing in urgency. It's not getting louder. It's not getting quicker. And I'm thinking, if someone is trapped and can't get up or get to help themselves, and they hear someone knocking on their door, or even if they see like police car lights going in their house, then they'll like start pounding more frequently or harder or whatever to get their attention.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess it's something else. Like maybe it's an animal stuck in the walls. I don't know. So I kind of dismissed it. They left, and I was like, okay, well, I did my due diligence as a neighbor, I guess. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to bed. In the morning, when I woke up, I heard it again. And I was like, well, maybe it's the laundry. Like maybe there's a shoe that someone put in the dryer and it's just continuing to cycle. I'm going to go check the laundry. Go check the laundry. There's nothing in the washer or the dryer in the building. So I'm like, I don't freaking know what this is, but I am just going to go run my errands like I was planning on doing.
Yeah.
So now this is Thursday afternoon at about 5 p.m. Thursday. I was having some coffee with my mom, and I'm sitting and I'm telling her about this noise that was happening and like what I did and all these things.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me all of a sudden, when I left the house Thursday morning, I walked past Cliff's window and his drapes were fucking shut. And it was like 11 a.m. And so I'm sitting in my mom's house having coffee with her. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to go home. And she was like, what's wrong? And I said, Cliff's drapes were shut. I have to go check on him. And so I run home. Thankfully, my parents only live like a mile, so I wasn't far.
Yeah.
So I like race home. I immediately park the car, knock on his door, like pound on his door, and immediately I hear like really quick, loud pounding back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I try the doorknob and it's unlocked. So I open the door a crack and I yell for Cliff, and he yells back for me, and he says, Janelle, oh my gosh, you darling angel. Thank you for finding me. And I was like, are you okay? He said, no, I'm stuck in the bathtub. And I said, oh my gosh. So I go around the corner and I said, is it okay if I come in? He said, yes. And so I go into the bathroom, and he has been trapped in the bathtub for 36 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I call paramedics. I gather some things for him. We get him over to the hospital. He was extremely reluctant to go. But once the paramedics, when they were there, they said to him, like, if you can stand up, like they got him to sitting in a chair, and they said, if you can stand up on your own and walk 5 steps on your own, we'll leave you at home. But if you can't do that without any help, you need to go to the hospital. And so he tried and tried and tried, and he was just exhausted.
Yeah.
So he sat back down because he was so dehydrated. He hadn't had any food.
Yeah.
He'd missed like 20 heart meds. And so he sits back down and looks at me, and he said, do you think I should go? And I said, yes, I think you should go. And Cliff, I'll go. Like, I will go with you. And he said, you will? And I said, of course I will. He said, okay, let's go. And so we go to the hospital. And so I sat with him in the emergency room for about 6 hours while they were running tests and making sure he was okay.
Yeah.
And I communicated with his daughters to like keep them updated, and helped her plan her flight out to see him and like stay with him a little while.
Yeah.
And so that was Thursday night. At about 11:30, he was finally settled in like his room, in his hospital room where they were going to keep him overnight, in the like vascular wing, not the ER.
Yeah.
And made sure that he had everything he needed. And then I left, and then his daughter came the next day. So Friday, she was with him. She was with him Friday. She was with him all day Saturday. She left his room to go back to her uncle's house where she was staying. On Saturday night, she left at like 10:30, and at 11:30, then one of the nurses called her and said that, he had asked to go to the bathroom before he went to bed. And so a nurse came in and helped him to the bathroom and then helped him back to bed. And when he got back in bed, he laid down and just stopped. Like, his heart just stopped.
Yeah.
And he was just gone.
Wow.
There was no like heart attack, no episode. Everything just stopped. And he was gone.
Wow.
And so I spent the next couple days with his daughters. His daughter's getting some things settled and helping her find his will and clean some things up. They moved his tomato plants onto my porch. I've made about 6 batches of tomato sauce with his tomato plants.
That's awesome.
And I have it. He had on his chair, next to his chair was a lamp, and hanging on the lamp, he had like a little sun catcher of a rooster. And I have that hanging on my door now.
Oh, I love it.
And
I love roosters. I love chickens. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I've kept in touch with his daughters a little bit here and there. And it's a very bittersweet story. And I know that, just in conversations with him, he was extremely ready to move on from this world. And not that he had a bad life or that he didn't want to live. He was just 92 and he was ready to be done. So yeah. Cheers, Cliff.
Here's to you, Cliff. Cheers.
Yeah. He was a very, very sweet, dear man.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad, right? But it's also a beautiful story. I think there's beauty in people that have lived life fully, Yeah. I
would say that's true.
Yeah. So many thoughts, so many things, so many things going through my head. One, death. I really, really struggle with death.
Yeah.
Not that anybody doesn't, but I don't know.
It's so hard.
There's just something that's I just really it catches me and holds on, and I had the privilege and the honor of holding my grandma on my dad's side, her hand as she passed. And it's not an experience that's, really the first time I've ever really experienced anything like that. But, there's not an experience I've had that's more vivid than that in so many ways.
Sure.
And, I wouldn't have wanted to have been anywhere else than right there. And at the same exact time, I it's full, that experience is so full every time I think about it, it's
it sticks with you.
Yeah. But I don't know, there's nothing about that experience or even the story you just told that there's nothing different that you could have done, there's no, and in so many ways, there's nothing I would want to do different. I had the opportunity when my grandma was passing this is before Dana and I got married, and I had already planned, and it was part of my plan to ask Dana to marry me, that next fall in the next, whenever, but I eventually asked her that next fall, and she had passed away in the spring of that year. And I had the opportunity to ask my grandma, like, hey, they pulled her out of her sedative and whatever, and we're like, yeah, she'll be lucid for a while, and hey, I want to, she had a trach in and she couldn't speak. I was like, hey, I wanted to ask you, like, hey, I wanted to, ask Dana to marry me. Would you be okay with that? And, she shook her head up and down and, kind of gave my hand a little squeeze. And, it's moments like that like you can't ever, like, there's no replacing that moment, It's one of the most special moments ever. And even those, like, moments that you got to spend with Cliff, and I'm sure there's a number of times that you could stories you could tell about Cliff and beyond just that, like, traumatic experience of being like, man, what's going on? Like, something's wrong. But yeah, I mean, we had this. I hate that I can't remember names, but the older gentleman and the man and the woman that lived over near
Dottie.
Yes.
And oh man, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
But, like, those two, I wasn't even as close to them as some of the other people that we're really good friends with, is like Calvin and Gia and some of those people. But man, like, the memories you got to spend with those people and to know how full they lived their life, and those memories, like, don't go away.
No.
Like, they still exist. And I think about that a lot with my own life sometimes, of just legacy. Even when I was in college, we did, in my youth ministry major, we had this one course that we took, and in it we had, our professor gave us a page, and it was like a tombstone, like the gravestone, and it was like your epitaph, like, what do you want people to remember you for? And I'll never forget that, because it really made me think about, like, what do I want to be known for? What do I want people to remember me for? What's the life that I want to live, Yeah. And man, that thought is a blessing and a curse in and of itself as well, because, like, you're constantly striving for this idea, I guess, in some ways. But I don't know. Death is just an interesting thing. You can't escape this world without experiencing it, yet we're all afraid of it.
Yeah. So I don't mean to put any guilt on you for anything that I'm about to say, but we actually had that class together.
Did we?
And yeah, we did. The
Robert Brandt?
With Robert Brandt, it was you, me, and Tony. And Jesse Lacey was there, and we, like, went on a little trip to the cemetery.
Yeah, we did. And
on like Jefferson Street. And I know there were other people in that.
Yeah, I couldn't have told you, like, until you just said that. I knew Tony was, just because Tony was in so many of my classes, but I couldn't have told you who all was in. I knew it was small, probably like 5 or 6 of us.
Yeah.
Man, Janelle.
So yeah, and I remember that day too, of just, like, walking around, and I absolutely remember that question. And the one that struck me as I was looking at people's tombstone was, there was this one woman, I can't remember her name, but there was one woman's tombstone that said, like, daughter, mother, sister, aunt, friend, like, all of these relationships that were the cornerstone of her life. Like, it was clear that she meant a lot to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And yeah, that was the one that stuck out to me as well. And yeah, don't feel bad at all for not remembering that, because I have forgotten so many things about many things about my past. So
yeah, I couldn't. That's like one of the very few memories of college that I actually remember. Like, and I more remember, like, trying to figure out, like, what I wanted to, like, say about that. I think I left that blank for a really long time. I may have filled it out like right before the class started, to be completely honest. Like, and I don't even know what I put. I couldn't tell you what I put. I probably still have that binder somewhere. But
yeah, the question is the more meaningful part.
Yeah.
Because your answer is going to change throughout your life.
Right.
But to be thinking about it is the point.
Yeah.
I think.
I've never forgot it. That's like one of the few things I haven't forgot about college days.
Right. Yeah.
Of my
Robert Brandt is freaking baller.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Crazy. Wow. How is that how is that story? How has that experience like changed you? Has it changed you? Like what are your thoughts? Like how do you obviously it's a meaningful moment. It's a meaningful time. What does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I will absolutely never, ever, ever forget Cliff and just how incredibly sweet he was and incredibly kind. And he was, he was one of those people who in the same sentence was so kind and would also get you cracking up at the most firecracker comment that you've ever heard in your life. While we were sitting there, so here's an example. While we were sitting in the emergency room, he had one of those oxygen monitors clipped onto his finger.
Yeah.
And he was kind of fiddling with it, and he moved it to his middle finger and looked at it and said, Janelle, I can't quite read what this says. Can you? And then turned it around and flipped me off. And I stood up and I said, oh my God, I cannot believe that I just saved you from the bathtub with nothing on your body and you're flipping me off right now. And he just got into this giggle fit where he his gown was slipping down off his shoulders, and he said, oh, I can't give you a show twice tonight.
That's awesome.
Man. So that was just one example of how he was. He was just a delight to be around and always wanted to talk, and was one of those people that when they're having a conversation with you, they grab your hand so that you can't leave.
Ah, yes.
So they're just holding your hand while they're talking to you, so you don't have a choice to you aren't able to excuse yourself. It's my favorite. Oh my gosh. At the same time, it took me about a month to be at home by myself and not hear the sounds of him pounding on the wall.
Yeah.
And
almost wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be a while still before I don't have any guilt about not getting there sooner. Yeah. About not following my hunch, about not at 2 a.m. when there were cops there, about not going to his door with them and, making sure they knocked loudly enough so that he could hear, because he's hard of hearing. And, his door to his apartment was not on the front of the building. It was off to the side. So I think what happened was that they knocked on the door for a different apartment, and those people weren't there. And so, there will just be those regrets. Not that I think that getting to him sooner would have had a different result in the end. But, and maybe I could have saved him some suffering, Yeah. So there's that. He absolutely, sorry.
No, you're okay.
He did not deserve to sit in a bathtub alone, naked, cold, in his own filth for a day and a half.
Yeah.
That's not how anyone deserves to spend one of their last days.
Yeah.
And he absolutely deserved better than that.
Yeah.
And so there will always be some regret in me that, you know, I could have maybe saved him from some of that.
Yeah. You did a great job, Janelle.
Well, thank you.
You did. You did exactly what you needed to do.
I've heard that.
And I know that like that's your own thing you have to wrestle with, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like, this is me being completely blunt and honest with you. Like, that's fine. You know?
Yeah.
Like, your feelings about that, they're okay too. And I don't think that I'd be any different than you, right? Like, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change your mind about that. But,
Yeah.
like, you did everything that you could have. And you did what you should have. You know, like, yeah. Are there things you wish you would have changed looking back? Of course. And that's okay. Yeah, there's a chance, right, that you could have changed the circumstances of how things happened, but you did what was right. You did what was worthy. You went above and beyond, and you know, I think that speaks volumes for who you are, and you know, you have to deal with your own emotions and your own feelings about that, and that's yours. That's yours to deal with. You know, there's nobody that can change any of that for you, but
yeah,
you know. You did a great job. You did what you were supposed to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ooh, boy.
I know.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It's fun. Cliff.
Yeah.
Cheers to you once again, sir. Cliff.
Good.
I think
Cheers,
about
Cliff. His drink was 2 Chardonnays at 4:00.
Well, we're a little past 4:00, but here's some rum for you. Yeah. Some Haitian rum for you, sir. I've got a little sip left, so.
Uh-huh. Two glasses of Chardonnay from a box in his fridge around 4 p.m.
No shame in boxed Chardonnay.
Oh no, I would never shame someone.
Live your own life.
Yeah,
Cliff, you live your life.
It was funny because while we were another thing he said to me when we were sitting in the emergency room, we talked about booze, like as just a topic of conversation. that was our subject of our conversation for at least like 2 hours of the 6 that we were sitting together. It was just booze. I mean, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. There was the gentleman Gary Vaynerchuk, I think is his name.
I don't know.
He talks about he's a businessman. He wrote a book called Crush It, and it's awesome. But anyway, he's look him up if you're listening and you haven't heard him. He's going to change your world. He's going to speak a lot of truth into your life, and just hold on to your hats and your pants and your shorts and whatever he says. And you can get mad at him, but he's just gonna speak truth to you, and it's a slap in the face sometimes, but it's good. Nonetheless, he talks about how, I'm 31. And he talks about, like, people are my age that go our age. You're close to my age. I don't know if you're 31 yet, but he talks about
31 in a month.
There you go. At least you're part of the club, the 30s club.
Yeah.
He talks about how people, like our age especially, but just younger people, even 40s, whatever, 50, and he goes, like, you've got a whole nother life to live. Some of you have like multiple lives to live. Why are you giving yourself excuses not to like go after what you want to go after? 25, like you feel like you've passed your prime, and like people that are, have gone to college and done their thing, but like you've got 3 more lives to live. Like you can live in a whole nother 25 years plus some, like maybe two times that. Like, think about the experience you've had, like the experience I've had at 31. Now I could most likely I'll be able to live that, especially if it's to your friend that you had just told the story about. Like, man, I could live 2 more of the lives that I've already lived. Crazy to think about. So what do you like? There's no excuses for like not chasing after what you want, like, so what? It takes you some time to get there. Like, is it worth it? And I don't know. I keep that in the back of my mind a lot, and I think about that a lot, and I think about people that have lived their life to their fullest and have lived 90 plus years or whatever it is. It's like, man, good on you. You lived a lot of life. You've got to experience life so full. And
yeah, absolutely.
So, Janelle, I think we should wrap her up there.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much. Thanks again. Thanks for telling your story. I really appreciate that. I love that. I love that that was a story we got to tell on air. And, we had talked about telling me that story before, and it's really, it worked out perfect.
Sure did. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was an honor to be back.
Absolutely. I have a feeling this won't be the last time.
I hope not.
I hope not as well. All right, everybody. Thank you again, Janelle, so much for coming on.
Thank you, Shane.
And if you're listening, go check out crazyfaceuno.com. There's ways for you to donate. There's ways for you to buy some mugs, some different merchandise on our online store to support the cause and support what we're trying to create here. There's more to come, so stay tuned. Keep listening. Keep being a part of the story. We appreciate it. Don't forget, do good, make a difference. Look for ways that you can give back in this world. Give back to your community, whether that's locally or globally. We appreciate you. Peace.